The U.S. government also had to organize the military operations. The American Expeditionary Force, or the AEF, was one of the first groups sent over to Europe by the U.S. government. They were led by General John Pershing, and you might remember his name because he was the person sent across the Mexican border in pursuit of Pancho Villa. The AFE was made up of troops from widely separated parts of the country, and the infantrymen were nicknamed the Doughboys. Probably the most famous conflict Doughboys were involved with was the Meuse-Argonne Forest campaign. And we'll see some footage from this campaign and talk about some of the people involved. One of those was Alvin York, who became an American hero in his efforts during the Meuse-Argonne Forest campaign. York, in a very brave effort, killed 25 Germans and helped to capture another 132, based on basically his efforts alone. Going over to Europe was a fairly traumatic event for most U.S. soldiers. Remember, at that time, travel overseas was fairly infrequent, especially for commoners. So most U.S. soldiers were not experienced travelers. They'd never seen Europe or any place like it. And of course, they were very impressed by what they saw, but they were also quite naive. They were young, and they were devastated at the unexpected horror of the war. World War I was one of the most violent and brutal wars of all time. A lot of that was due to new modern weapons that caused horrific injuries and death. Also, on the battlefield, there was not very much medical care. So people who did suffer injuries or were maimed did not have quick access to medical treatment. Some of the injuries that happened were often shell shock or shrapnel injuries, trench foot, and trench mouth. The death involved in World War I was outstanding. Deaths numbered 22 million, 48,000 U.S. troops, and approximately 62,000 that died of diseases. 20 million soldiers, and those included all the countries in Europe as well, were wounded, and 200,000 of those were American. The photos on the left, the bottom one, that's a picture of what trench foot looks like, and of course the top one is soldiers receiving medical treatment for various injuries. The warfare and technology changed significantly during World War I. Trench warfare became very common, and the problem with trench warfare is that once people are engaged in trenches, neither side is really moving. They're stuck in the trenches, neither side can advance. So often these trenches were only yards away from one another. And the area between the trenches, and this is an area that's usually completely barren, it's been stripped away by fire and weapons, and often had barbed wire to keep a group of troops from crossing from one trench to another. This picture shows a pattern of trenches, what those trenches frequently look like, and you can see the different trenches house troops that have different jobs. So there's, for example, the communication trench over there on the left, and we'll take a look at trench warfare in closer detail in class. Trench warfare, like I said, often results in a stalemate where neither side can really move forward. Other new technologies included submarine warfare. It's not the first time we've seen submarines, but of course the Germans become kind of the submarine gurus. They basically basically compile a large fleet of U-boats. Also, we see the first airplanes used. Not many, but towards the end of the war, we start to see the first airplanes used in war. We also see several different kinds of chemical weapons, including mustard gas, which was a poisonous gas used to injure soldiers. And this particular diagram shows the effects caused by mustard gas. Chlorine gas is another chemical weapon used, which makes the soldiers sick, can even suffocate them, burn, and blind them. Also, we start to see equipment such as tanks, zeppelins, or blimps, and machine guns. Finally, in November of 1918, the German Republic is established, and the Kaiser of Germany surrenders his throne. By this time, German forces are too exhausted to continue fighting. They've been pushed back, and they agree to sign an armistice, which is a truce. So a ceasefire is declared, and this eventually leads to the end of the war. We'll talk in more detail about the events of the war in particular, but for now, that's what we have. See you in class. Finally, in November of 1918, Germany is exhausted, and the German Republic is finally established. The Kaiser gives up his throne, and they agree to sign an armistice, which is a truce or ceasefire that leads to the end of war.